Working in English is hard enough, but sharing your opinion at work, that's a whole other level. Today, I'm giving you the phrases professionals actually use to say what they think. Confident, but not aggressive. Direct, but not rude. There's a way to do it. I'll show you. These phrases work in meetings, emails, one-on-ones, anywhere you need to be heard at work. I'm Mark, and this is English with Mark. Welcome. Let's get into it.
One of the hardest things about working in English is sharing your opinion. Not because you don't have one. You do. But because you don't know how to say it in a way that sounds professional. Confident, but not aggressive. Clear, but not rude. Today I'm giving you the phrases that do exactly that. 10 expressions for sharing your opinion at work in natural professional English. These work in meetings, in emails, in one-on-one conversations. Anywhere you need to say what you think without stepping on anyone. Let's start with the most important skill of all. How to give your opinion without it sounding like a demand. The phrase is, in my view. In my view is a clean, professional way to introduce your opinion. It says, this is what I think. Not, this is the truth. You might say, in my view, we should push the deadline back a week. Or, in my view, that approach carries too much risk. It's direct, it's confident, but it leaves room for others to disagree. Similar phrases, from my perspective, or the way I see it. From my perspective is slightly more formal, good for presentations or senior meetings. The way I see it is more casual, good for team discussions. And one more. My take on this is, take means opinion or interpretation. My take means how I read the situation. My take on this is that we're solving the wrong problem. That sentence is confident, and it immediately makes people think. Compare that to just saying, that's wrong. One closes the conversation, the other opens it. That's the difference these phrases make. I used to struggle with this in my first professional job. I had opinions, strong ones, but I would either say nothing or say too much. Both felt wrong. Both damaged my credibility in different ways. These phrases changed that. They gave my opinions a frame, a way to enter the conversation without taking it over. Next, how to agree with someone professionally. The phrase is, I think you're right about that. Simple, clean, but much better than just yeah or exactly. It names what you're agreeing with. It sounds considered, not just reactive. You might say, I think you're right about that. The timeline is too tight. Or, that's a fair point. I hadn't thought of it that way. That's a fair point is very professional. And very generous. It says, your thinking is good. I'm acknowledging it. People respect that, especially in a meeting room. Another one, I completely agree with your point about. This version is more specific. You name exactly what you agree with. I completely agree with your point about the customer experience side. That specificity matters. It shows you were listening. Really listening. And one more. You've touched on something important there. Touched on means you mentioned something briefly, but it deserves more attention. You've touched on something important there. Can we spend more time on it? That sentence validates the other person and redirects the conversation. Two things at once. Very efficient. Very professional. Next, how to disagree without creating conflict. The phrase is, I see it slightly differently. Slightly is doing a lot of work in that sentence. It says, we're not far apart. I just have a different angle. It softens the disagreement before it even lands. You might say, I see it slightly differently. I think the issue is earlier in the process. Or, I'd push back gently on that. Here's my thinking. Push back gently. That phrase is brilliant for professional settings. It announces the disagreement before it happens, and it cushions it. People are less defensive when they feel respected, and push back gently respects them while still disagreeing. Another one, that's one way to look at it. My concern is, that's one way to look at it doesn't say you're wrong. It says, that's valid. And here's another angle worth considering. Very diplomatic, very effective, especially with senior colleagues. And one more, I wonder if we're missing something here. I wonder if is very soft, very non-threatening. It doesn't say, you're wrong. It says, what if there's more to this? It invites everyone to reconsider, without pointing at anyone. Very useful when you sense the group is moving in the wrong direction. Next, how to add to someone's point without taking it over. The phrase is, building on what you said. Taking your idea and adding to it.
Not replacing it, not challenging it, extending it. You might say, building on what you said, I think we could also look at, or, adding to that point, there's another factor worth considering. This phrase is very collaborative. It makes you sound like a team player, and it credits the other person for starting the thought. People love being built on. It validates their contribution. A similar expression, that connects to something I was thinking. Connects to means there's a link between your idea and mine. That connects to something I was thinking about the budget side. Very smooth, very natural, keeps the conversation flowing. And one more. That's a good segue into something I wanted to raise. Segue means a natural transition from one topic to another. It says, your point led me to my point, and now I'm going to make it. Very fluid, very confident, without feeling like an interruption. Next, how to express doubt or uncertainty professionally. The phrase is, I'm not entirely convinced. Not entirely convinced is much better than, I disagree, or I don't think so. It says, I have reservations. I need more to be persuaded. It's honest, and it invites the other person to make their case better. You might say, I'm not entirely convinced this is the right timing. Or, I'm not fully sold on this approach yet. Not fully sold is very natural, very common in business English. Sold means convinced, like buying an idea. She sold me on the idea. That means she convinced me. I'm not sold yet. That means I still have doubts. Another one, I have some reservations about this. Reservations means concerns or doubts you haven't fully expressed yet. I have some reservations about the timeline. Can we talk through them? That sentence names the doubt, stays specific, and opens dialogue. 3 things in one sentence. That's very good professional communication. And one more. I'd want to understand this better before committing. Committing means agreeing or deciding. I'd want to understand the risks better before committing to a launch date. It doesn't say no. It says, not yet. Give me more. Next, how to ask for other people's opinions. The phrase is, what's your take on this? Take again, as in, what's your reading of the situation? Very casual, very collaborative, good in team settings. You might say, before we decide, what's everyone's take on this? Or, I'd love to hear your take before we move forward. Asking for takes is a sign of a good leader, of a good colleague. It says, I don't think I have all the answers. Your perspective matters. And people respect that deeply. A more formal version, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I'd be interested to hear means, please share your view, I genuinely want to know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the proposal before Thursday. Very professional. Very clean. Works perfectly in written communication too. And one more. Is there anything I'm not seeing here? Is there anything I'm not seeing means, am I missing something? Help me. That question takes real confidence to ask, and people trust you more for it. It says, I know I don't have the full picture. Tell me what I'm missing. That's not weakness. That's leadership. Next, how to make a strong recommendation. The phrase is, my recommendation would be. Recommendation is more formal than suggestion. It says, I've thought about this. I have a considered view. Here it is. You might say, my recommendation would be to delay the launch by 2 weeks. Or, I'd strongly recommend getting legal to review this first. Strongly recommend is very direct, but in a credible, professional way. It says, I'm not just suggesting, I'm advising. This matters. Use it when you really mean it, not for every small point. A softer version, it might be worth considering. Might be worth considering is tentative, low pressure, just planting a seed. It might be worth considering a phased rollout instead. Very gentle way to introduce an alternative. Nobody feels challenged. And one more. If I were in your position, I would. This phrase steps into someone else's shoes. Empathetic and direct. If I were in your position, I would want more time before deciding. It says, I understand your situation, and here's what I'd do. People find that kind of advice very easy to hear. Next, how to hold your position when challenged. The phrase is, I hear you, and I still think. I hear you says, I've listened, I understood your point. And I still think says, I've considered it, my view hasn't changed. You might say, I hear you, and I still think we need more data before deciding. Or, that's a fair challenge, I'd still lean toward the original approach. I'd still lean toward is very professional and very confident. Lean toward means, my preference is, my instinct is. It's not absolute, but it's clear and it's hard to argue with. Another one. I've considered that and I keep coming back to the same conclusion. Keep coming back to means, no matter how I look at it, I end up here. I've looked at this from several angles and I keep coming back to the same conclusion. That sentence shows thoroughness. You didn't just ignore the challenge, you wrestled with it. And you still believe what you believe. That's credibility. Early in my career, I would cave whenever someone pushed back. I thought, they must know something I don't. Let me agree. But sometimes I was right, and I let good ideas die because I couldn't hold them. These phrases help you hold your ground without becoming difficult. You can be firm and open at the same time. Last one. How to wrap up a discussion and move things forward. The phrase is, I think we're aligned on. Aligned means in agreement, pointing in the same direction. I think we're aligned says, let's acknowledge what we agree on and move. You might say, I think we're aligned on the goal, the question is the approach. Or, it sounds like we're largely aligned, let's nail down the details. Nail down means finalize, confirm, make concrete. Let's nail down the timeline before the meeting ends. Very action-oriented, very professional. People respond well to it. Another closing phrase, let's take this offline. Take it offline means, let's continue this separately, not in this meeting. Good point. Let's take this offline and come back with a proposal. That sentence closes one thread and opens another. Very efficient. And one more. Let's agree to disagree on this one and move forward. Agree to disagree means,
We have different views, and that's okay. We're moving on. Sometimes that's the most professional thing you can say. Not every disagreement needs to be resolved. Some just need to be acknowledged. That's maturity, and it keeps the team moving. Okay, full recap. 10 expressions for sharing your opinion at work. In my view, I think you're right about that. I see it slightly differently. Building on what you said. I'm not entirely convinced. What's your take? My recommendation would be, I hear you and I still think. I think we're aligned. These give you a full toolkit for agreeing, disagreeing, recommending, for holding your ground, for moving things forward. Your challenge? Use one of these in your next work conversation. Any one. Just try it once. See how it lands. Then come back and tell me which one you used in the comments. I read every single comment. I'd genuinely love to know. I'm Mark. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.